My wife secretly forged my will and tricked my brother into signing over a $300, $0 inheritance to her. Then she disappeared with everything, leaving me bankrupt and furious. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here telling everyone how I got played so badly, but here I am. The craziest part. It all started with a gut feeling that something was just off, and then it spiraled into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The moment I found out my wife was cheating on me, everything changed. And the worst part, I didn't even see it coming. We'd been married for about 5 years. I thought we had a pretty normal life. Good job, nice house, 2 dogs, and a pretty good sex life. Was always a little bitchy, but I chalked it up to her being stressed or just her personality. She was beautiful, confident, always dressed to impress, and she knew how to get what she wanted. But beneath that, I never suspected she was capable of the kind of betrayal I uncovered. It all started about 2 months ago. I noticed she was acting weird, secretive about her phone, hiding her screen when I walked into the room, and she'd get defensive when I asked her who she was texting. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was just busy with work or talking to her friends about some girl stuff. But then I caught her in a lie. I saw her hurriedly deleting texts on her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. That's when the alarm bells started ringing. One night I was late coming home from work. I usually call when I'm on my way, but she didn't pick up. When I got in, I noticed her car wasn't in the driveway, which wasn't unusual. She sometimes went out with her friends. But I decided to check her phone, just to see if everything was okay. I know it sounds paranoid, but I'd rather know than be. What I found was a string of messages from a guy named Jake. They'd been talking for weeks, apparently, and the texts weren't just friendly. They were flirty, explicit even. She was talking about how much she missed him when I was away on business trips, how she wanted to see him, and even about meeting up. My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I trusted with my life, was cheating on me with some guy I'd never even heard of before. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I never thought was capable of betrayal like this. She'd always been the bitchy, demanding one, but I never suspected she'd do something so cruel. I spent the night awake, replaying everything I saw, trying to make sense of it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her lying there, pretending everything was fine. I felt sick, angry, betrayed, like I'd been played for a fool. Next morning, I confronted her. I didn't yell or scream, at least not at first. I just laid the phone on the kitchen table and told her I knew. Her face froze, that bitchy smirk she always wore slipping for a second. She tried to deny it, said I was crazy, that I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. But I showed her the messages. There was no denying it anymore. Her reaction. Oh, she got defensive, tried to turn it around and say I was overreacting, that it was just sex, that she didn't mean anything. She told me Jake was just a friend, that I was paranoid, that I was controlling. She even lied about where she was that night, said she was out with her friends when I knew she was with Jake. I could see right through her bullshit. The way she lied so effortlessly, like she thought I was an idiot, made me realize just how deep her deception ran. That moment hit me hard. I felt a mixture of shock, anger, and a deep, aching sadness. I'd always believed in our marriage, in us. I thought she loved me, but now I saw she was capable of anything. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for ignoring the signs. I wanted to break something, scream at her, make her feel what she'd done to me. But instead, I just sat there, staring at her, trying to process what I just learned. After she left that day, I was alone in the house, feeling numb. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. All I could think about was how I'd been played, how she'd lied to my face, and how I'd never see her the same way again. The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even more was knowing she'd been lying to me for months, maybe longer, while I was working, trying to build a future for us. She was out there with Jake, pretending to be the perfect wife while she was sneaking around, cheating, lying. It was like my entire life had been a lie. That's when I started thinking about revenge. Not the petty kind, but something calculated, something that would make her regret ever crossing me. I didn't want to just divorce her and walk away. I wanted her to feel what I felt, to know that I wasn't some fool she could use and discard. I started digging into everything, her finances, her secrets, her lies. I needed to understand how deep this betrayal went and what I could do to make her pay. And that's where I am now. Sitting here trying to figure out my next move, feeling more betrayed than I ever thought possible. I don't know what's worse, finding out she cheated or realizing that she'd been lying to me from the start. Either way, I can't let this go. I have to do something. I have to make her regret it. So, after that initial shock, I didn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. No, I started digging. I needed to know exactly how deep had gone into this mess. I wasn't just going to divorce her and call it a day. I wanted to ruin her, make her regret ever crossing me, and make sure she paid for what she did. First thing I did was check her bank accounts. I knew she'd been hiding something, and I wanted to see if she'd been funneling money or doing anything shady. Turns out, she had a secret savings account I didn't know about. There was an amount of cash in there, more than I'd ever seen her save. I kept digging, and that's when I found out she'd been withdrawing money in small amounts, probably to avoid detection. I also found out she'd been making payments to Jake's account for months, apparently to fund their secret meetups. That was a punch to the gut. I realized she'd been planning this for a while, maybe even before she started talking to Jake. It wasn't just a fling, it was a full-blown betrayal. I also found some receipts for luxury hotels, expensive dinners, and even a few gifts, things I never knew she was spending money on. All that money gone now, and I was left with a house I couldn't even afford anymore. She drained us dry. The next step was more invasive. I got a private investigator. I needed proof, hard evidence, so I hired someone to follow her. I didn't want to be reckless, but I needed to see with my own eyes what she was up to. The Pie came back with footage of her meeting Jake at a fancy restaurant downtown. They were kissing, holding hands, acting like a couple. The thing that really made my blood boil was when I saw her whispering in his ear, then sneaking off to a hotel with him. I couldn't believe she'd go so far, so brazenly cheat on me in broad daylight. I felt like I was losing my mind. All the trust I'd built up over 5 years was shattered in one afternoon. I kept replaying the images, trying to make sense of how she could do this to me, how she could lie so effortlessly. I'd always thought she was a bitch, but this was a whole new level. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what I'd do next. I knew I needed to confront her again, but this time with everything laid out. I wanted her to see I knew everything, the money, the affair, the lies. I also started planning how I'd get my revenge, not just on her, but on Jake too. They'd both taken something from me that I'd never get back, my trust, my marriage, my dignity. I remembered how she'd lied about her whereabouts, said she was out with her friends, but I knew better. I had the proof now. I was furious, but I also felt a strange clarity. I realized that I'd been blind for a long time, blinded by love or maybe just comfort. But now I saw her for what she was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd used me, lied to my face, and then disappeared with my money and my life. I decided to take control. I started looking into her financial history, digging into her phone records, her emails. I wanted to find out if she'd hidden even more. Turns out she'd been forging my signature on documents, my will, my bank forms, stuff I never knew about. She had tricked my brother into signing over a $300, $0 inheritance I was supposed to get. She forged my signature, manipulated him, and then ran off with every penny. That's what broke me most. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. She'd taken everything from me legally, and I was left bankrupt and humiliated. I confronted her again, this time with everything I'd uncovered. I told her I knew about the forged will, about her stealing my inheritance, and about her affair with Jake. Her reaction? She played the victim, of course. Said I was paranoid, that I was accusing her of things I couldn't possibly prove. She told me I was overreacting, that she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me. But I could see the lie in her eyes. She was panicked, trying to cover her tracks, but I already had enough to take her down. That's when I decided enough was enough. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I filed for divorce, started the process of reclaiming what was mine, and prepared myself mentally for the fight ahead. It's been anger, sadness, betrayal, and finally, determination. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know I've got to fight for what's left of my life, my dignity, and my sanity. And I can tell you one thing. Never trust a bitch because she'll lie, cheat, and steal her way into your life, then leave you with nothing. After I gathered enough evidence to make my case, I knew I had to act fast. Lies were piling up and I could see she was starting to panic. Her tone became more defensive, her stories more inconsistent. I realized that if I didn't move quickly, she'd find a way to cover her tracks even further. I decided to confront her again, but this time with everything laid out on the table. I wanted her to see I wasn't messing around anymore. When I called her to meet at the house, she showed up looking irritated, like she already knew what was coming. She tried to keep her cool, but I could see the flicker of fear behind her eyes. I laid out the evidence, her texts with Jake, the bank statements, the forged documents, even the footage of her at the hotel with him. I didn't hold back. I told her I knew about the affair, the stolen inheritance, and her lies about her whereabouts. Her reaction, she snapped. Started crying, saying I was paranoid, that I was accusing her of things she didn't do. She played the innocent victim, saying I was ruining everything because I didn't trust her. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I had enough. I was filing for divorce, and I was going to take every dollar she stole from me to make her regret ever messing with me. She tried to deny everything, but I had the evidence. I told her I was going to contact my brother, show him the forged documents, and make sure she paid for what she did. That's when she lost her shit. She screamed that I was ruining her life, that she loved me, that she'd never cheat, never steal. But I saw through her act. I knew she'd been lying to my face for months. The next few days were a blur of lawyers, financial advisors, and trying to get my life back in order. I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every time I thought about her cheating, I got angrier. Every time I looked at the bank statements, I saw how much she'd taken. The inheritance, the money she'd tricked my brother into signing over, gone. All because she wanted more, because she thought she could get away with it. I also started digging into her contacts and social media. I wanted to know if she'd been talking to anyone else, if she had other plans to run off or scam more people. Turns out she'd been in contact with a few other guys, some shady characters I didn't recognize. That confirmed what I already suspected. She was a manipulative, lying bitch who'd do whatever it took to get what she wanted. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep my emotions in check. I was furious, but I knew I had to stay calm if I wanted to win this fight. I hired a lawyer, started the paperwork for the divorce, and prepared to fight her in court over the financial mess she'd left me in. She taken everything, my money, my trust, even my family's inheritance. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut every time I thought about it. One day I caught her sneaking around the house, trying to access my emails and bank accounts. She thought I didn't know, but I'd set up some security measures. I confronted her again, told her I had enough evidence to ruin her. That's when she finally broke down and admitted she'd been planning to leave with the money all along. She said she was tired of being broke and wanted a new life, with Jake or whoever else she was talking to. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about love or even money anymore. It was about her just taking what she could get and leaving me with nothing. I decided I wasn't going to let her walk away that easy. I was going to fight for my rights, for my dignity, and for whatever was left of my sanity. I started compiling everything: texts, emails, bank records, witness statements. I wanted her to see I was serious. I wasn't just going to roll over and accept that she'd destroyed my life. Looking back now, I realize how naive I'd been. I trusted her, believed in our marriage, and thought she loved me. But she was just a manipulative, selfish bitch who saw me as a target for her schemes. The betrayal hit me hard, but it also made me realize I needed to stand up for myself. I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to fight, no matter how painful it was. Because if I didn't, she'd keep lying, cheating, and stealing until there was nothing left of me. And I refused to be that guy. The legal process dragged on longer than I expected, but I wasn't about to back down. Every day, I felt a mix of anger and resolve building inside me. Lies kept unraveling, and I made sure to document everything. I wasn't just fighting for the money or the house. I was fighting to reclaim my life from someone I thought was my wife, but who turned out to be nothing more than a con artist. One of the most shocking moments came when I finally got access to her email account. I had her password, which I'd guessed after noticing her changing her passwords frequently. Inside, I found a series of emails between her and Jake, discussing how she planned to disappear with the inheritance and start fresh somewhere else. She even arranged for a new identity, complete with fake documents. That was the point where I realized she'd been planning her escape for months. She wasn't just cheating. She was actively trying to wipe her hands clean of everything, including me. I also uncovered more about her financial scheme. She'd been forging my signature on multiple legal documents, power of attorney, bank transfers, even some of my personal files. She manipulated my brother into signing over the inheritance, claiming she was doing it for our future. I found the forged will she'd made, which left me with nothing. She'd even secretly set up a new bank account in my name, draining the last of what I had left. It was infuriating, but I kept my cool. I knew I had to gather all this evidence for court. I hired a forensic accountant to trace every penny she'd taken, and a private investigator to get more footage of her dealings with Jake. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that she was a master manipulator, willing to lie and cheat her way out of anything. I couldn't believe I married someone like her. Meanwhile, kept trying to spin her side. She'd come up with lies saying I was paranoid, that I was just jealous or insecure. She insisted Jake was just a friend, that she never cheated, never forged anything. But I had the proof: screenshots, bank records, witness statements. I handed it all over to my lawyer, who told me we had a strong case. One morning I found out she made plans to leave the country. She booked a flight, arranged for a new ID, and even bought a one-way ticket to Mexico. That was the moment I realized she was trying to run away, to escape accountability. I called her, begged her to stay, but she just laughed and told me she was done with me and this whole mess. That's when I knew I had to act fast. I contacted the authorities and filed for an emergency restraining order. I couldn't let her leave with all my money, all my assets. The court date came quicker than I expected. I sat there listening to her try to deny everything, to spin her lies, but I had everything prepared. The judge looked at the evidence, her forged documents, the emails, the bank records, and saw right through her. She was caught red-handed. The judge issued an order preventing her from leaving the country, froze her bank accounts, and ordered her to return the stolen inheritance. That day was a victory of sorts, but it didn't erase the pain. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and devastated. I'd trusted her with everything: my heart, my money, my future, and she'd stabbed me in the back. But at the same time, I felt a strange sense of relief. I was finally taking control of my life again. I realized I'd been a fool to believe in her, to think she loved me. She was just another manipulative bitch who saw me as a target. Now, I'm in the process of rebuilding. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional fallout, and I'm working on fixing my financial mess. I've cut her out of my life completely. No more calls, no more messages. I want nothing to do with her or Jake. The betrayal cut so deep that I don't think I'll ever fully recover, but I'm determined to move forward. Looking back, I see all the warning signs I ignored. The secretive behavior, the lies, the money spending, everything was there. I just refused to see it. I guess love makes you blind sometimes. But now I know better. Never again will I trust someone so blindly. If I learned anything from this, it's that some people are just out to take what they can, no matter who gets hurt. And I'll never let someone do that to me again. The aftermath of everything was a whirlwind. Even with the court orders and the evidence I had, I felt like I was still catching my breath. Was nowhere to be found. She vanished right after the judge put the freeze on her accounts and stopped her from leaving the country. I guess she thought she could outrun her mistakes, but I wasn't going to let her get away that easily. I spent the next few weeks in a fog, trying to piece my life back together. I had to sell some assets just to keep afloat, things I'd never thought I'd have to do. My house, which I'd worked so hard for, was now in jeopardy. The inheritance she'd stolen was gone, but I managed to claw back some of it through legal channels. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start rebuilding my savings. Still, the emotional toll was heavy. Every time I looked at my bank statements or thought about what she'd done, I felt this deep, burning rage. It was like she'd taken a part of me and stomped on it. During this period, I also learned that I'd been telling people she was the victim, that I'd been controlling, jealous, or just paranoid. She painted herself as the innocent wife wronged by a jealous husband. It was so typical of her, lying, spinning stories, trying to make herself look good even as she ran off with everything. That made me even angrier. I knew the truth and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I also reached out to my brother, who'd signed over the inheritance under her influence. I was furious at him too, for being so easily manipulated. I showed him the forged documents, the emails, the bank records. His face turned pale. He said he never realized what she was doing, that she had convinced him she was doing it for our family, for our future. But I could see he was just as much a victim in her game. I told him I was planning to sue her for fraud, and he promised to help in any way he could. Meanwhile, I started seeing a therapist. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could help me process the betrayal, the anger, the heartbreak. It wasn't easy. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, sweating, thinking about her and what she'd done. I felt so stupid for trusting her, for believing she loved me. But slowly, I learned to channel that rage into something productive, the fight to reclaim my life. One of the most shocking revelations came when I found out she'd been planning this whole thing for months. She'd been secretly saving money, forging documents, manipulating everyone around her. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I started questioning everything, my judgment, my marriage, my own instincts. How could I have missed the signs? How could I have trusted someone so completely and still been betrayed so badly? Eventually, I decided to cut all contact with her. I changed my phone number, blocked her on social media, and told everyone I knew to stay away from her. I didn't want her to hurt me anymore, and I didn't want to be part of her lies. I was done being a victim. I wanted to be a survivor. I knew I had to move on, no matter how difficult that would be. The hardest part now is accepting that I probably won't get everything back. The money, the trust, the marriage, it's all gone. But I'm trying to see this as a lesson. I learned that some people are just out for themselves, and that love and trust can be fragile if you're not careful. I also learned that revenge isn't always about revenge itself. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your dignity and rebuilding after being broken. Looking ahead, I plan to focus on myself. I want to rebuild my finances, regain my confidence, and find happiness again. I know it won't be easy, but I also know I'm stronger than I thought. Betrayal taught me a hard lesson. Trust no one blindly, especially not the people closest to you. Because sometimes the biggest betrayals come from those you love the most. And when they do, you have two choices. Let it destroy you or use it as a catalyst to become better. I choose the latter. I have to. Would you like me to continue with the final part? Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much I've been through and how much I've learned the hard way. Betrayal was a punch to the gut, something I never thought I'd experience from someone I trusted so completely. It's still painful, and honestly, I don't know if I'll ever fully get over the sense of loss and betrayal. But what I do know is that I refuse to let her define my future. Getting played like that by my wife no less changed me. It forced me to become more cautious, more guarded. But it also made me stronger. I've learned that love isn't enough. Trust has to be earned, and even then you have to keep your eyes open. People can surprise you in the worst ways, and sometimes those surprises come from the ones you love most. In the end, I've come to accept that I can't undo what's been done. The money, the marriage, the trust, I can't get those back, but I can rebuild my life. I can learn to trust again, but more carefully this time. I can focus on my own happiness, my career, and my mental health. I've started working out, picking up new hobbies, and reconnecting with friends I'd pushed aside during the chaos. Slowly, I'm finding my way back to a stable place. To anyone out there going through something similar, someone you trusted turns out to be a liar or a thief, know that you're not alone. It hurts like hell, but you have to remember that your worth isn't defined by their actions. You're stronger than you think, and with time you can heal. Don't be afraid to lean on friends, family, or professionals. You don't have to go through it alone. And as for revenge, I've realized it's not about getting even, it's about reclaiming your dignity. I took back what was mine, fought for my rights, and made sure she paid for her lies. But the most important thing I learned is that forgiveness isn't about excusing their actions. It's about freeing yourself from the anger that eats you alive. I won't forget what she did, but I refuse to carry that bitterness forever. Now, I look ahead with cautious optimism. I know I'll be okay. Life has thrown me into the fire, but I've come out the other side a little wiser, a little more cautious, and a lot more resilient. And that, I guess, is the real lesson. No matter how deep the betrayal, you have the power to pick yourself up and start over. Sometimes, the hardest lessons lead to the greatest strength.